Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My dear students, today inshallah we will quickly revise chapter number 1, that is Indian economy at the eve of independence. Okay, you all know this chapter talks about the state of India's economy prior to the country's independence and also gives us the idea of the various considerations that shaped India's post-independence development strategy. Okay, and you also know the sole purpose of British colonial rule in India was to reduce the country to being a raw material supplier for Great Britain's own rapidly expanding modern industrial base. So the British ruled India for about 200 years, and they excessively exploited India's resources for their own interest. Okay, and they turned a precious nation into a backward, dependent, okay, and disintegrated economy. Correct. So in this chapter we will be seeing the few sections, that is the low level of economic development under the colonial rule. Then we will be talking about agricultural sector, then the industrial sector, and the foreign trade, and domestic and demographic condition, and occupational structure, and also the infrastructure. Okay, now you all know the main occupation of India, or the India's economy under British colonial rule, remained fundamentally agrarian. About 85% of Indian population lived mostly in village, and agriculture, they were dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. Correct. Okay, so in spite of this, there was a agricultural stagnation during that time. Okay, so before that we will see the economic policies pursued by the colonial government in India. Okay, so the economic policies developed by the British government in India was aimed at creating India as a supplier of British growing industries. Okay, so the policies were targeted towards the development of British and boosting its economic status. Okay, so India and its growth were completely ignored during that time. Okay, so due to such policies, India became a supplier of raw material and a market for finished goods from Britain. Okay, so this policies has certain impacts. First is Indian economy witnessed a very low economic growth. Okay, so when you see, you get to know that the study revealed that the economy was growing at a speed of 2% during that time. Okay, just 2% during that time. And the British government was more interested in maintaining and developing the economy of Britain. So this British rule ruined the agricultural sector and handicraft and transformed India into a supplier of raw material. Next, Indian agriculture system was not developed before independence, okay, because it was following old techniques, and it was majorly affected by the colonial rule, where the farmers were instructed to grow commercial crops instead of food grains. So these commercial crops such as cotton and indigo were used in the industries in Britain for manufacturing textiles. So the peasant did not get any monetary benefit from growing these crops, and hence no economic development happened during that time. Okay, then the British have programmed systematic industrialization by leading to the downfall of handicraft industries, and with the lack of investment, other industries also failed to develop. Okay, so imposing heavy export tariff on Indian made goods led to a decrease in demand in the international market that ultimately led to the collapse of handicraft industries. And the money that Indian goods earned from foreign trade was not invested in the India's economy, but it was used for managing the British army and expanding their colonial reach across Asia. Okay. And here we also study that there were some noble economists who estimated India's per capita income during that time. Okay, so who were those? That was Dadabhai Nauroji, R.C. Desai, V.K. R.V. Rao, William Digby, and Findlay Shirias. Okay, I repeat. Some of the noble economists who estimated India's per capita income during colonial period was Dadabhai Nauroji, R.C. Desai, V.K. R.V. Rao, William Digby, and Findlay Shiras. Okay. Okay. So as I've told you, 85% of Indian economy were dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. Despite of this, Indian productivity became very low. Okay, in the absolute terms. Okay, and there was an Indian agricultural stagnation during the colonial period. And what was the main reason for it? The first reason was the British have introduced land revenue system in 1793. Okay, as per the system, the zamindars, that is the landowners, needed to pay a high amount of revenue to the British government, and the source of this revenue was collected from the peasants. So the zamindars did not look they did not look after the improving the land productivity. They did not look at the improving of land productivity, which resulted in low agricultural growth and subsequently made the life of peasants very worst. Okay. Next, Indian farmers were growing food crops like rice and wheat for consumption, but British government forced Indian government to grow commercial crops like Indian farmers. Okay, the British government forced Indian farmers to grow commercial crops like indigo for the British industries. Okay, which led to agricultural turning commercial, and this caused a shortage of food grains in India during that time. Okay, and then lack of irrigation facilities and other important factors like availability of fertilizers also impacted the agricultural industries and made it more vulnerable. Okay, next, when we talk about industrial sector, you all know, same like agriculture, industrial sector also did not develop. Okay, there was no development in industrial sector under the colonial rule. Even the country's world famous handicraft industries declined. Okay, during that time, and no corresponding modern industries base was allowed to come up to take pride of place has long enjoyed by the farmer. Okay, then the primary motive of colonial government beside this policies of systematic deindustrialization India was to effect. Okay, so as I've told you, there was twofold motive behind systematic deindustrialization affected by the British in pre-independent India. So what are this twofold motive? Okay, so one is obtaining raw materials from India at rock bottom price and reducing the status of India as a supplier of raw material for feeding its industrial back in Britain. Okay, first is obtaining raw material from India at a rock bottom price and reducing the status of India as a supplier of raw material for feeding its industries back in Britain. Second is selling the finished goods in India. Okay, selling Britain's finished goods in India and thereby making India a market for selling items produced by British industries. Okay, so these are the twofold motive behind the systematic deindustrialization affected by British in pre-independent India. Okay, so but during the second half of 19th century, the modern industries began to take roots in India, but its progress was also very slow. Okay, during that time, India witnessed the growth of some industries before independence, the most prominent of which is Tata Iron and Steel Company, that is TISCO. TISCO. Okay, so India was also witnessing a growth of textile mills and ancillary products. Maharashtra, Gujarat, Bengal were areas where cotton and jute industries were set up. Okay, and apart from this industries, some other industries that started operating are sugar, paper, and cement. Okay. Okay, next, when we talk about foreign trade, uh, uh, okay, India was a country with ample resources during the colonial period. Then various products were produced in India like sugar, silk, jute, etc. So the British government uh, brought a restrictive policies on foreign trade. The export of products resulted in affecting the structural, then composition and foreign trade volume of India. Okay, the Britishers' restrictive policies, okay, it affected the structure, composition, and the foreign trade volume in India. Okay, so the state of foreign trade during independence, where India became a market for exporting primary products such as sugar, raw silk, indigo, etc., jute, etc. Then India also started importing finished goods like cotton, silk, and woolen cloths, along with mission produced in Britain. Okay, so Britain served as a major market for import for India, with food grains being the most imported item. Next, British established a monopoly on foreign trade when the Swiss Canal was opened in 1869. Okay, the opening of Swiss Canal. Okay, the Swiss Canal was opened in 1869. Okay, with the help of this, British established a monopoly on foreign trade. So this Swiss Canal helped in establishing a direct connection between India and Britain. So this reduced the time necessity for transportation, and also the result was more exploited for the because of this there was more exploitation of Indian market. So all of the India's trade was maintained by the British, with more than half being traded to British and the remaining to China, Persia and Ceylon. Okay, next, when we talk about the demographic condition, okay, we will just look at the demographic profile during the colonial rule. First is high birth rate was 48 per thousand and high death rate was 40 per thousand respectively. Second, infant mortality rate was 218 per thousand, which is very high. Next is life expectancy rate was 32 years on average. Then the literacy rate was below 16%, which shows a backward of the society. So from this above data, it can be said that India was undergoing a phase of poverty, low standard of living, and low survival rate. Okay, so this situation was aggravated with the absence of healthcare facilities, then lack of health related awareness among Indian population. Okay, next comes the year 1921 is regarded as the defining year. Okay, it is also known as the year of great divine, because as population growth was scarce before that time. Okay, before 1921 the population growth was scarce. Okay, but after that, after 1921, India's population growth was consistent. Okay, next is next let's talk about the infrastructure. Okay, so during British rule over India, there was a lot of infrastructural change in the country. Okay, but all this change were only done to serve the cause of British Empire. So development was seen in transport and communication. Then road helped in facilitating the transport of raw materials from different part of the country to ports where it will be shipped for industries in Britain. Okay, in a similar way, railways were developed for transporting finished goods from Britain to different parts of the country. So the railway helped in widening the reach of goods across India. Okay, and post and telegraphs were developed to increase the efficiency and reach of British administration in India. So when we see this, we can say that although there were there was growth in infrastructure, it was only for British Empire and not for India. Okay. Okay, next we will just see what are the occupational strategy. Okay, next is occupational strategy. We will see that part. So India was primarily an agrarian economy which consists of more than 75% of population involved in agriculture as a source of sustenance. Okay, while the rest was divided among the manufacturing and manufacturing and service sector. The less number of people in the manufacturing and industrial sector were due to the tough competition they got from cheap goods from British, which was mission made. Okay, so this British imposed a high tariff on import, thereby restricted the growth of industries. Hence, industries did not contribute well to the GDP of India during that time. Then India also witnessed regional variation in occupational structure. Okay, it was seen that in states like Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, then West Bengal, and cities like Bombay had experienced more concentration of work in production and manufacturing, while states like Punjab, Orissa, and Rajasthan had more population that was shifting towards the agriculture. Okay. Okay, next when we see we will just see what are the positive contribution made by the British in India. So if we talk about the positive contribution, we can say the commercialization of agriculture was an important point in Indian agricultural history because it helped achieve self-sufficiency in food grain production, and production happened as per market requirement, and this helped India in creating a sustainable economy from agriculture. Next, India was forced to follow the free trade during colonial rule, okay, which helped gain a foothold to compete with industries in Britain and also increase the volume of export. Next is establishment of railways helped to connect people to distant places and also increase the business of the people due to the expansion of geographical horizons. Business areas were expanded. Okay, then the promotion of English language also helped people to connect worldwide, and then there was a market improvement in the monetary system and production due to the division of labor. Okay, now if we critically next we will so all this what I've told is important. Almost we have covered everything of our first chapter. Okay, we will just see the shortfalls, that is the critically appraisal. Okay, that is some of the shortfalls of industrial policy pursued by colonial administration. Okay, you all know the main aim of British rule was to make India a source of raw materials to feed the industries back in British. Okay, and present India has a virgin market of finished goods from British. Okay, so the policies created by them were for the development of industries in British. Okay, so industrial policies was following some of the shortfalls. Okay, so British neglected the developed handicraft industries to develop British neglected the developed handicraft industries to deprive India of revenue from export. Okay, so Indian handicrafts was having high demand all over the world, but due to high export tariff imposed on goods exported from India, the price of products raised very high, okay, which impacted its demand and led to the collapse of handicraft industries. Okay, so because of the high export tariff, the demand for handicraft industries fell, and because of this it led to the collapse of industrial handicraft industries. Second, Indian industries suffered from lack of investment in machineries, and the government and the British government was not at all interested in assisting for the growth of industries. Therefore, there was the growth significantly declined during that time. Okay, so this is all about this chapter. Okay, yeah, we spoke about the positive contribution, correct, and we also spoke about the trade. Then I told you about the yeah. What are the India's most crucial economic challenges at the time of independence? Okay, the first is low agricultural output was one factor which was due to colonial impact on the country. Only items that were of monetary importance to the government were grown during that time. Okay, second was low level of industrialization and decline in handmade products. Third is low level of national income and per capita income. Next, low standard of living, low expectancy, high infant mortality rate. And next, high level of unemployment and gross underemployment. So these are the some of the crucial economic challenges at the time of independence. Okay, then we also spoke about the India's demographic profile during colonial rule, and we also spoke about the twofold motive behind systematic industrialization affected by British in pre-independence India. Then I told you some of the modern industries which were in operation in our country at the time of independence, and also the causes for India's agricultural stagnation during colonial rule, and the name of some noble economist who estimated India's per capita income during colonial rule, and also about the economic policies pursued by colonial government in India. Okay, so this is all about this chapter. I want you all to study fully. Okay, complete full chapter. Don't skip anything. Don't gamble. Study everything. Okay, everything is important in this chapter. Okay, if you still did not understand anything, please let me know. Jazakallah khairan.